Hello and welcome to the top 10 LEGO Castle Mocs of the month. Today we're going to be taking a look at my favorite medieval Mocs made in March 2024. But before we get into the list, if you'd like to enter to be in the next video, please send me a DM on Instagram or tag me in a post of your Moc. All of the artists featured today will be linked in the description below, so let's get right into the list. Starting off at number 10, we have a Wolfpack Tower remake by Ninjago.Jayfan. The Wolfpack Tower is such a perfect set for LEGO to remake, and this one is pretty close to what I imagine LEGO going for themselves. They would definitely downscale this a lot, but I think that's for the best. Now, as I'm sure you've already noticed, this is actually a Fright Knight's tower, not a Wolfpack one. He's obviously used the classic Wolfpack Tower set as an inspiration, but the Fright Knights are the ones on display here. The exterior looks great with a ton of small details and Fright Knight insignias everywhere you look. It even has a sweet bat statue on top of the tower, but it is no doubt a fairly chunky looking model. The best bit of this Moc, in my opinion at least, is the interior. You get an armory with weapon stands in the same style as the Lion Knight's castle, and you also get a pretty odd looking office for Basil the Bat Lord. The Moc is definitely a lot larger than I'd like, but it's a really cool build nonetheless. If you would like to see this become an official set, you can actually go vote for it on LEGO Ideas, linked below. Next up at number 9, we have this underground vignette by LEGOBoolio. Vignette builds are such a great way to create small scenes that still look really good. This one is fairly unique because it's two vignettes stacked on top of each other. Below, we have a goblin scampering around in a cave with hanging vines and stalactites all around him. And above, we have a hunter dressed in wolf pelts firing off an arrow at a falcon. I also love the kind of trick shot pose that he has the hunter in here. It's a pretty cool look. A small vignette build like this one would make for a perfect $20 LEGO Castle set, and it would appeal to both adult fans of Castle and kids. Seriously, I love seeing Mocs like this one because it just gets me excited about the possibilities there are even with a small amount of parts. I'd highly recommend you go check out LEGOBoolio on Instagram. They make a ton of cool custom minifigures and will hopefully keep posting cool Mocs like this one. Next up at number 8, we have Magisto Rest by Neufangledafol. After the lackluster Magisto's Workshop GWP, I was left with kind of a sour taste over the Dragon Masters. But now with this Moc, I am right back in. The rock work done for the dragon's nest is so cool looking. The angles are wonderfully done, and I can't see any noticeable gaps whatsoever. The dark orange and brown parts that make up the dragon's nest look really realistic, and this whole part of the Moc in general is just basically perfect. An expanded version of this scene with even more rock work and a bigger nest for the dragon would look so cool. Even so, this is such a cool scene and definitely stays true to the original Dragon Masters theme while still looking modern with its parts usages. I couldn't recommend any more that you go check out his page on Instagram. He's got a ton of custom fantasy minifigures and smaller Mocs like this one that any Castle fan will love. And at number 7, we have the Knight's Castle remake by Zcerberus. Knight's Castle is one of the most memorable castle sets of all time, even if you didn't grow up having this set. It kind of set the standard for what a LEGO castle is meant to look like, and you can see its influence in so many castle sets that came long after it. So Zcerberus has remade it in 2024 to mark its 40th anniversary, and he has done it to near perfection. The red front gate in the original has translated so well to the newer dark red color, and just looks so classy. He's also built up the terrain around the castle to give it even more oomph, and also makes the drawbridge function work even better, now connecting a rocky pathway up into the castle proper. He's kept the stone greebling on the walls pretty simple, which I'm a big fan of, though I would of course love to see more of those studs sticking out. He's framed these windows around the castle with dark gray tiles to match the printed pieces in the original set, and it works great as a modern version of those printed wall pieces. Oh, and of course this addition of a black roofed off section on the left side was so clever and adds way more to the build than the original set had. I love that he's kept the green flags that the Black Falcons used to use, but has modernized them with the newer dark green color. Most people would probably just swap the green to black, but he's kept with the original designer's intent, which I think was a great choice. This build is exactly what you want to see when it comes to remakes. It keeps what made the original a classic and has added some more modern touches to bring the set into the 21st century. Go check out his page on Instagram and Flickr. He's got some of the best high detail medieval Mocs out there. Next up at number 6, we have the Wolfpack Outpost by PisoBrick89. Over the last month, we have seen a ton of new Wolfpack Mocs because of the new fig that came in the medieval town square, and this one is up there with the best that I've seen. The use of the colored foliage and brown really sets the Wolfpack apart from the brighter classic castle Mocs that we are used to seeing. This wooden workshop or horse stable to the side of the tower was such a smart move to break up the gray of the rest of the build. And above the workshop, we've got a wooden walkway with some really nice details considering the relatively small footprint of this mock. I love the use of these stick pieces here in the banner, and the chains that hold up this overhang were a really cool idea. It kind of gives off the impression that the Wolfpack are not the most experienced engineers. Moving around to the front, we've got a lovely little snot technique for this staircase, and just above the door there's a Wolfpack shield with a couple of crossed swords used for decoration. I think that the people that grew up with the Wolfpack in the 90s will love this little hidden cave and ghost reference to the ones that were found in the original sets. LEGO really needs to bring back this ghost minifigure in a slightly updated form. I am a huge fan of this mock, but my only critique of it is that this tree in the back is a little messy looking, to be honest with you. Maybe if the tree was a little taller it would look better, but I don't know. The good thing is that it doesn't take away from the overall look of the build. Piso Brick has actually uploaded this mock to LEGO Ideas, so if you would like to see this become an official set, you can go vote for it there. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. And now cracking into the top 5, we have the Potion Tower by Afollygood. This scene is just straight up jaw-dropping. The height of this build is insane, and those steep roofs add so much detail to the buildings. Of course, the red one on the top is probably my favorite, and works so well with the black and white half-timbered house. The tiles on the roof look great, and this skinny chimney that pops out of the side was a really sweet touch. Even ignoring this awesome, massive tower that makes up the bulk of the build, you have a lovely little bakery right underneath it. With an outside stall with different pastries and pies for sale, you also have a group of people out trying to shop. The sign done with a pretzel was a great idea, and the sand green accents in the oven stone works super well, and is not a color scheme that we see often enough. This mock is actually part of a larger medieval village that Afollygood is making for a convention. You can check out all the other builds for it in his Instagram links below. Moving on, we have the Medieval Marketplace by Legoland Collector Italy at number 4. This marketplace takes the general look of the 2009 set and just beefs it up a ton. The tan building from the original set has been scaled up and adds a lot of height to this mock, while still keeping the Tudor style that the original was known for, even adding in some curved wooden beams like we've seen on the medieval blacksmith set. I can't say that I'm a fan of the blue window shutters, I just feel as though the white ones looked a lot better. But I do love this addition of a sand green building in between the two original structures. The gate underneath it was such a good idea, and it almost feels like the entrance to a theme park or a Renaissance fair, but it totally works here. The blue building on the right has definitely seen the most improvements to the original. The stonework on the base of the house just has so much more texture and feels a lot more modern. In the middle of all this, we have a fantastic looking statue of a bearded knight. The base of this statue is so much better than most statue builds that I've seen. It's not complicated at all, but it just has a way fancier look that I think works great here. And of course, there are a bunch of market stalls, all with people standing around. I adore this builder style a ton, and has honestly made me appreciate the simpler classic style of buildings that we used to get. Please go check out their page on both Flickr and Instagram linked below. They have so many amazing classic inspired builds that I know you will enjoy. At number 3, we have a Winter Camp by The Mally. Nature and landscaping is one of the harder things to get right in LEGO. Which I mean makes sense, square bricks aren't exactly the best analog for the natural world, but when done right, you can get some beautiful lifelike scenes. The Mally has done just that. The trees in this mock are just insane to me. The scale is just right, and I know these had to have been a pain to put together. Getting those foliage parts to sit just right and work with each other is one of the most annoying things you can do in a mock. And he's done it. But the extra snow that they were able to attach to the tree is the real kicker here. I know for a fact they were fighting with all those parts to keep them together. Also, these trunks, I mean, they are just thin enough to match the scale of these trees, and they look great. But forget the trees. The slice of cake look of this terrain is wonderful. You of course have the top layer of snow, but you also have dirt below it, and what looks like to me patches of clay as well. And over here we have a frozen lake with fish underneath it. The dock is nicely done with layers of brown and dark brown plates, and even the frozen over lake has a hole for the Black Falcon to fish through. We also get a little look at the horse in the back that has some gear strapped to it with a rubber band. And finally, the camp itself looks sweet, with a campfire that has melted all of the snow around it. The inside of the tent has a sleeping bag and is held up nicely with this pole. I just really appreciate the attention to detail in this mock. I mean, just look at how there's a muddy pathway where the knights have been walking. Please go check out the Mally on Instagram. They have some amazing other medieval mocks, and even some Star Wars ones as well, that all look great. Next up, in second place, we have the Viking Hall by Rachael. A rowdy Viking feast is such a fun concept and scene to set a mock in, but we sadly don't see enough mocks of them. So when Rachael sent me this one, I was blown away. We of course will talk about the actual feast itself, but I gotta mention this crazy shield collection that they've got going on here. This entire wall is just filled to the brim with different shields from the classic early 2000s Viking theme, and they work so well here as a decoration for a longhouse. The bright painted shields bring in a nice amount of color to what would otherwise be a fairly muted scene, but it doesn't take away from the actual build below it. She has created a very lively Viking hall equipped with a litter of Northmen and accessories. The back wall is greebled nicely with wooden beams, and the stonework has a lot of studs exposed, which I am a big fan of. The melting candles along the back wall was a great touch and brings in a lot of realism to the build. It's not often that you see mock builders consider lighting when it comes to a build, so I appreciate that extra bit of realism here. Now, as I write this script, I'm coming to the realization that this might actually be a Valhalla mock. We have Odin sat in the middle with Thor and another god. That is definitely hinting at that. Oh, and of course we have the feast, which is another pretty obvious nod to that I just didn't pick up on at first. Seriously though, this scene is just too good. The little details like this kitten trying to steal a fish off the table, or this guy bringing in another barrel of ale, just bring in so much life to the mock. Overall, this is such a fun build that has some of the best minifigure staging that I've seen in a while. And finally at number 1, we have the Taming of the Grime Brothers by Bryckland. Sand green is one of my favorite colors in LEGO. Unfortunately, it's pretty rare, so whenever I see a build that prominently features it, I have to gush over it. Using this color for the two roofs in this scene was a very clever way to make use of it. It adds a really nice pop of color to an otherwise cold and wintry fortress. The round tower is stellar and has very minimal gaps, which is always a challenge when building round towers. The roof is especially impressive. Bryckland has a story on his Instagram right now where you can see how he achieved this design. It's a really cool behind the scenes look at how he made this mock. The rest of the scene is also great. The simple dark tan terrain works nicely here, and the minifigure staging is fantastic. I love how he's gotten this guy to sit down by removing the legs from the hip piece. It's a cool little technique to get a more realistic looking pose. This is a wonderful mock, and I really hope you all go check it out. Bryckland is always posing some really incredible mocks on his page. From fantasy to pirates, I'm sure there's something there you'll like. And that concludes the top 10 medieval mocks of March 2024. If you want to see your mock in the April video, please send me a DM on Instagram or tag me in a post. Please go check out all of the artists featured today, linked in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.